The sun had just started to set when Sarah found herself in the middle of an enchanted forest. The trees around her glowed with a soft, magical light, and the air was filled with the sound of chirping birds and rustling leaves. Sarah had no idea how she had gotten there, but she knew she had to find her way back home. As she wandered through the forest, she came across a small, furry creature with big, round eyes. It introduced itself as a fairy and offered to guide her through the forest. Sarah was hesitant at first, but she realized that she had no other options. She followed the fairy as it flitted through the trees, pointing out hidden paths and warning her of dangerous creatures. After what felt like hours, Sarah and the fairy emerged from the forest and found themselves in a wide, open meadow. In the center of the meadow stood a towering castle, its walls gleaming in the setting sun. The fairy explained that the castle belonged to the king of the magical kingdom, and that he might be able to help Sarah find her way home. Sarah hesitated for a moment, but then she decided that she had nothing to lose. She and the fairy made their way to the castle gates, where they were greeted by a group of guards. The guards eyed Sarah suspiciously, but the fairy vouched for her and they were allowed inside. Sarah met with the king, who listened patiently to her story. He explained that the forest she had come from was a gateway between worlds, and that it was rare for someone to cross over accidentally. He promised to help her find her way home, but first he needed her help. The king explained that an evil sorcerer had taken over a neighboring kingdom, and that he needed Sarah's help to retrieve a powerful artifact that could defeat him. Sarah was hesitant at first, but the king promised to reward her handsomely if she succeeded. Sarah set out on her quest with the help of the fairy and a group of knights. They traveled through the kingdom, encountering all kinds of magical creatures along the way. They rode on the backs of dragons and fought off giant spiders, using their wits and bravery to survive. As they got closer to the artifact, they encountered the sorcerer's minions. Sarah and her companions fought bravely, using their magic and weapons to fend off the attackers. Finally, they reached the artifact and retrieved it. Sarah and her companions returned to the castle, where they presented the artifact to the king. The king thanked Sarah for her bravery and handed her a small, glowing orb as a reward. He explained that the orb would allow her to return home, and that she could use it whenever she was ready. Sarah said goodbye to her companions and made her way back to the enchanted forest. She used the orb to create a portal back to her world, and stepped through it. She emerged on the other side, back in her own world. As she looked around, Sarah realized that the magical world she had been in was not just a dream. It had been real, and she had been a part of it. She smiled to herself, knowing that she would always treasure the memories of her magical adventure.